the 2013 Bible of Bike Tests, talking tonight about the Specialized Epic Comp. We just got off the trails here in Sedona about an hour and a half ago, and what do you guys think? Pretty cool bike?
Pretty cool bike.
Fast.
Very zippy.
Yeah. I think one thing I would come away from that is that bike definitely is quick, right? Fast.
It was definitely the most XC bike that we rode today, I feel like.
I would agree with that, definitely. You're even off-road, right? Like, it was quick, but you felt like you might fight in a steep head angle, but it didn't seem to take away from the speed of the bike through the technical stuff.
And it was pretty maneuverable, I think, especially for a 29er, which can feel, I think, kind of doggy sometimes. It definitely felt like it just zipped around, and it was a fast bike for sure.
I felt a little bit stretched out on it, but I'm kind of used to a little bit of a slacker head tube angle, a little bit more of an upright position.
Yeah, right. And I really felt like it handled the technical terrain surprisingly well.
Yeah, that was the thing I was really pleasantly surprised about, is it was definitely very zippy, but I didn't feel like I was compromising too much on the ledgy, rocky stuff. And there's certainly not a lot of races that are focused around ledgy rock, so it's kind of nice to know when you're tired, you can count on your bike a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
make up for your spazziness.
It didn't have a dropper post, and I thought, all right, okay, we're gonna have a steep head angle, no dropper post. All right, this is gonna be bad combination here, but it wasn't. Surprised.
It almost felt more like it was more than a 100 mil travel bike. I felt like.
Do you guys play with the brain much while you're out riding it?
I'm not a huge fan. I don't like how you have to. I mean, it's really difficult for on-the-fly adjustments.
Right.
Because it's way back in the hinterlands, and I don't. That bothered me. It made me not really play with it. It made me just kind of leave it open the whole time. Because
you have to get off the bike and then
that's
remember
too much.
Remember why you got off the bike in the first place.
Right.
But I didn't really feel the need to play with it. Like, I felt like the rear suspension felt good pretty much throughout. With the front suspension, I had a little bit of trouble setting it up. Just in that it seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like to get the appropriate sag, I was having to put a little bit less pressure in than I would expect.
Right.
But once I played around with it a little bit,
I had the same sort of thing happen. So I put it in, I set it up with about a 20% sag, and then bottomed it out.
Right.
A couple of times, like huge clangers.
Right.
Well, all right, I'll have to put some more air in it. Yeah.
I do think the auto sag option is interesting. It's a good idea, I think, for people who maybe are intimidated by the thought of setting up your suspension. I mean, I think for a lot of people that's like, well, I don't even know the first thing to do, really. And so I think it's wise of Specialized to have a feature like that, but I didn't use it.
At the same time, for people who aren't comfortable with that, that's why having the bike shop that you really trust is so important.
Yeah, how many people do you think try and fill up the red valve rather than the black one? They see the red valve, it's pointing right at it.
I know another one.
This thing doesn't fit on there anymore, right? It's not super intuitive about what's going on there. There's two valves, like what's happening. They got some really small print on the canister saying, okay, fill it up to 350 psi. Like, if you've got a little Diddy shock pump, you're pumping away on that thing for a really long time. By the time you got 350 in there, you've had your exercise, don't need to ride anymore.
Are you pumping up the shock? I'm not sure if it's the international sign for
shock pumping.
So, even though I think it's a cool feature, I still rely more on a sag setting visually. Like, sit on the bike, get the O-ring up there, do the sag setting.
Do you think the price of this bike warrants what it is? $4,200.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think it's really well priced, competitively priced. Carbon, right? Not cheap. $4,200 for a bike. I can just roll out, get on it, put a bib on. Race bib.
Let's do that.
Stretchy pants, cycling specific clothing that's really tight, and go and race it. Yeah. I did fiddle with the brain quite a bit, and I'm not a big fan of the brains either. And basically went back to fully open on it, and it felt just as fast. It felt great. When I clock it a few times, it doesn't have very much adjustment. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's only like 4 or 5 clicks on that. Go a couple of clicks in, and then you can feel the shelf of the brain.
Right.
break free every time it wants to go through its travel. So I don't like that sensation.
Right.
The actual brain working, you can feel it. It's like, okay, it has that little bit of it's like shelf that it gets through to come into its travel.
But then again, the trails that we were riding, there weren't a lot of super smooth, flowy parts. I mean, in just about everything that we were riding, it was very ledgy, a lot of craggy rocks.
Exactly. I mean, I have no trouble turning that thing into full firm for a giant fire road climb. In Colorado, get up to high elevation.
Right.
And then
Definitely.
obviously forget to turn it back down, which I usually do. And then wonder why it feels like butt in the end, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
I left it open the whole time, and I felt like it climbed really well and really efficiently, even with, fully active suspension, which I was pleasantly surprised.
What did you think? So what was it? It was a Shimano 2x10. Seemed like a pretty appropriate spec for the bike. Yeah, right? Formula brakes. I don't have a lot of experience on those. They felt fine.
Right?
Yeah, I kind of felt like the spec was all just sort of good.
Yeah,
it was all fine.
Okay.
There's nothing that really stood out, especially, it was all just really appropriate spec for that price level of bike and for
when you're walking
for what
around
it
with
is.
$4,000 in your back pocket.
Totally. But yeah, really appropriately spec'd bike.
Yeah,
definitely.
Definitely agree there. Fast race bike for long distance.
Endurance.
If I lived in a high country, Colorado, I had to climb all day long to get to 11,000 feet.
Perfect steed.
I'd be into that bike for sure.
Who do you all see as being the ideal rider for this bike? Because everyone's going to have their personal preferences, but who do you all see
I kept
as being
thinking like Leadville 100.
That kind of flash.
Sort of bike.
Yeah. You aspire to race. You don't want to. Maybe you're not super competitive. Otherwise, you'd have an S-Works. So you'd like to have a bike that you can race if you want to, but also a bike that you can ride all the time.
Yeah, I could see it as being folks who are into Straving.
Right.
Could definitely be into kind of having their little personal races on this bike.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so that's it.
Fantastic.
Specialized comp, epic comp.